this video, we'll be looking at client-side validation using jQuery for the login form. And this is similar to the work that we've done in JavaScript. So this login form is linked to this JavaScript file. And when we submit the form, we want to display error messages. So this is actually done using the JavaScript file. We want to do the same in jQuery. So I'm going to unlink the JavaScript file and get rid of this method call, function call. And now the form won't work because we've unlinked it from the JavaScript file. But it's now linked to the jQuery file, which is this file basically. And we want to have the same functionality by following these comments. So after the document object model has been fully loaded, we want to execute a function. So let's write the code for that. Sorry. Document, this part. We're calling a function. So the function is gonna end all the way down to here, and that's how we end it. We're basically saying after the document or the DOM has been fully loaded, execute this function. So what goes in the function is number 2, when the function is submitted, execute this function. So we have another call. Now we want to refer to the form element. So any form that is on a HTML page, when it's submitted, is gonna run this function. And now the event in this case is submitting the form. And this also ends right here. Yeah, so this is it. Then I'll come back to this one later and this one later, just because I want to show you what happens when we don't do these steps. So I'll come back to here. At this point, we want to select, sorry, we're going to do this part here, is we want to select the username and password elements using their IDs, retrieve their values using the val function, and store the value into a variable. So the first thing we want to do is access the elements using their IDs. So at this point, we're looking at username. And close. Now we can get the value using the dot val. I've written it here somewhere. It's using the .val method. And this way we've gotten their values, but we want to store the result into a variable, and let's call it username. Like this. And we'll do the same with the password. User pass, and we know that the ID is password. There. So now we've got the values. Now we want to check if the username or password fields are empty. Sorry, I've got my. Then set the text of the selected error elements with appropriate messages using the text method. So we'll start with checking if the username is empty. And let's close it off. In this case, we will set the text of the selected error elements. So we would like to access the username error. So in this case, we'll refer to this ID, to this element, and using the text method, we will set the text to please enter a username. So that's one. Let's try it out. So here you can see that we can see the error, but it doesn't really show that much. This is when we want to prevent the form from being submitted using the event prevent default method. So let's save and refresh. And now when we submit, we can see that error message. Now we can do the same for the password. User pass, And we can look at the error, that span element is currently empty. There's nothing in the span element, so we can see it's an empty span element, but we want to put an error there. Yeah, so I just want to show the CSS file showing how we've actually got some colorings for our error message, and for the successful message we've got it set to green, and for the error set to red. This is what we did in the previous video for the JavaScript, so we'll just use the same since this file is linked to the same CSS file. Okay, so in this case we've just changed, please enter a password. So now we've got 2 error messages. Now one other thing that we want to do is once we actually put in something, we want to get rid of those error messages. So this is when we come back to number 4 and we want to reset our fields. I might just copy this whole thing and just empty these out just like this, and the same thing for this part. We just reset them both to an empty string. So now they go away when we submit something. Okay, now the last thing, number 7 is we want to return false if any of the username or password is empty. So if this one or the pass, sorry, that's just this part only. In this case, we want to return false. Otherwise, we return true. And one more thing, if both fields are not empty, then set the text of the selected element with appropriate message using the text method. So in this case, we're doing something like this, success. Now we are referring to this span element. .text, here we can just give a success method. Form submitted successfully. Let's see what happens if we try and submit. Oh, that's not working. Sorry if success, I've got a typo there. Now we've got the form submitted successfully. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. This is the jQuery version of what we've done compared to the previous video in JavaScript. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.